marching band. For your halftime entertainment, we celebrate the 43-year reign of the speed metal kings, Metallica. With 9 Grammy Awards and 14 nominations, 38 concert tours worldwide, and 11 studio albums that span 4 decades, the Titans of Thrash remain the standard by which all other metal is measured. We begin with a 1984 classic from their second album, For Whom the Bell Tolls, followed by the 1992 tour anthem, Wherever I May Roam. And then, let's turn down the house and light up the stage with the Auburn University Marching Band and their show, Metallica.
Well, it's reaction time. Auburn versus Missouri is complete. The Auburn Tigers fall in overtime, double overtime, by the score of 23-17 to the 15th ranked Missouri Tigers. We're going to talk about it, the score, the stats, the storylines, break it all down. Auburn's 4th loss in the SEC in a row. Let's talk about it, discuss it, and react. All coming up right now. War Eagle, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we get together, we sit down, and we talk about, we share in the Auburn experience, which to us is all about a few things: Auburn sports, Auburn culture, Auburn family stuff. And an easier way to say it, though, is if it's orange and blue, it is what we do. So thank you so much for joining us in what we're going to be doing today here on this live reaction show for Auburn football versus Missouri. Your final score is 23-17. Missouri wins in double overtime. The Auburn Tigers take their 4th loss in a row, 4th in the SEC, still winless in the SEC. It just sounds great, doesn't it? All of those different things. What we're going to do for you on this reaction show is offer you a space to be productive in your commentary about it. We're going to try to as well and make some sense. Talk about some of the things that maybe did work, things that didn't work, some of the same old stories, I think, out there that, we're going to have there. I think if you're saying things like the season's over, I'm looking at you right now, that's a little bit drastic, things like that. Certainly plenty of time for us to discuss things like that. We're not going to be engaging in non-productive discussions in this. I know that's what a lot of you want to do, but unfortunately, that's not going to be something we are going to tolerate here on these shows. It's sad that I actually have to say those types of things, but here we are, just having to kind of remind people about how to represent the Auburn Creed well. If that bothers you me saying that, it might be time to take a little bit of a breather. All right, with that in mind, we're going to walk through stats. We're going to walk through the storylines. We're going to break it down and try to figure out how we can make sense of what just happened here today on this particular stream. We're going to try to make sense of all of this type of stuff. We'll walk through individual stats, team stats, things like that. Take some commentary from you throughout it. We'll probably save most of that for the end as well. 23-17, your Auburn Tigers lose. Now, they come out firing in the first half, at least for the first drive, stalled out. I was actually really pleased with the way that they responded after having some stall outs. Again, it felt like that there was going to be some situations where it was going to be a lot of the same old stuff. I thought Jackson Arnold tonight showed at times a little bit more of what we expected out him, but not necessarily everything that we wanted to see. Still, I think there were a lot of this, and keep in mind, folks, I should say this more at the beginning of all of this type of stuff. We should remember these are initial reactions, initial thoughts about that. We're reacting to the emotions of the situation right now. So when we go back and relook at things, seeing like that, seeing what worked and what didn't work, we're going to try to maybe put that into a little bit more context and less emotions of the situation at this point. I will say too, if you want to just try to find anything you can to take away as some sense of even just a neutrality on this, I don't really even want to say positive. They fought to the bitter end on this one, not necessarily putting themselves in the best situations overall, but they did not give up until the end. There just wasn't a lot to. This offense is just struggling. Let's just put it easily as that, and a lot of it has to do with some consistencies in some areas that we've talked about a lot tonight. I know, and I see a lot of you talking about this in the chat right now, which is really interesting to me. I've thought about this. Is it worse to lose because of a weird clap thing or a weird, refereeing situation, or is it worse to lose this way in overtime where you really had this thing in the bag? Look, it's one thing. Loss is a loss no matter how it happens, but the frustrations continue for Auburn. All right, I think I'm just rambling at this point. So let's just go and try to talk a little bit more about some of the stats and things like that. We're going to just try to move forward with those of you that want to be productive in the chat tonight too. All right, let's start with should we do individual? Let's do team stats tonight. I think that's probably going to help us a little bit more understand things, look and see how the game went. Total yards for both teams tonight, 343 for Missouri, 357. So Auburn does win finally in the total yards category, which was, I guess, a nice change of pace if you want to say that. Pretty even there as well. Pass yards tonight, I would say a lot better for Auburn, 207. Rush yards, 150. Overall, the offense at least had a little bit of life to it tonight and some moments of looking pretty decent, I guess. Here's something if you want to take away any type of positivity about it. 4 penalties tonight. Only 4 penalties at Auburn. I think at times it felt like there were more, but only 4 penalties for 40 yards. So that is a vast improvement for this team. And actually, I mean, compared to what we've been dealing with over the last couple of games, but they do continue to come at inopportune times. Third downs for Auburn tonight for both teams, 8 of 17. Auburn was 6 of 16, so really not that good again. Well, let's see here. If they get 8, that's 50%. So we're sitting probably close to 40%, if not in the 40%. I'm trying to do quick math, and most of you that have watched this show before know how difficult that is for me on the fly. So 6 of 16 on third downs, not outstanding, but it's definitely been worse, meaning 0 third downs converted. Total plays, more from Missouri, which let's see how that coincides with the time of possession. Is that not on here right now? Yeah, it is. Yeah, time of possession coincides with them. 32 minutes to our 27, so they were able to control the game a little bit more just from those stats alone. Fourth downs, Auburn was 0 for 1 on fourth downs. They didn't attempt any. Okay, so we'll pause right there real quick, kind of digest a little bit of that and see what we got going on here. Anything productive in the chat? Yeah, we're going to be getting rid of people that don't know how to handle themselves in the chat. Let's see. Hunter says, can we also acknowledge that they missed the defensive pass interference call likely caused us to lose the game despite the missed field goals? Yeah, I don't think there was one particular thing. We're going to get to some of the special teams as well tonight. Definitely left a little bit to be desired. Poor old Alex McPherson he is trying his doggone hardest to be able to get back fully to himself. Probably one of his worst nights. Not only did he miss the two starting field goals, he missed the one that he was asked to do from distance, and clearly we now know where his limits are at this point. So we'll get there in just a second, but just walking a little bit ahead of that. Walking through some more stats, Auburn won in the average yards per play, average yards per completion, but not by much. Pretty comparable there. Average rushes, Auburn had a little bit. Average yards per rush was a little bit better. And by the way, I apologize if the audio is a little off. We are in a facility with a tin roof, and it is raining cats and dogs, or cats for tonight out there. That is, definitely part of the. It just feels like when it's raining, it's pouring, doesn't it? Red zone. Missouri was 3 for 4. Auburn was 3 for 5. So a lot of this is really making sense when you look at the stats. Sometimes when you look at team stats, you're like, how did that team lose or how did that team win? A lot of this shows exactly why this went down to double overtime. 2 turnovers for Missouri tonight, only 1 for Auburn. The first interception for the year for Jackson Arnold, and an interception as well, and a fumbled but not lost one for Missouri. Sacks. Auburn only gives up 3 sacks tonight. So once again, it felt like to me at times that the offensive line was just allowing not enough time for Jackson Arnold. And I think that is the case, but you can't really argue if these stats are correct at the end of the game with 3 particular sacks. Tackles for loss, even across the board, 9. So that's probably a big factor right there as well. It is coming down out there now. I don't know if y'all can hear that or not. It is absolutely coming down. We'll get to individual performances in here. I think that's in a position where we're trying to look for bright spots in all of this. We're certainly going to be able to talk about that. A lot of you are giving him stats right there. Paige, so if the only stat that does matters is the final score, I don't understand why you're here. So we're going to talk through every angle of it. Certainly the score is the ultimate thing that matters, but I think that goes without saying, and we're going to walk through what we can to understand the game a little bit more in context and less of emotion. Those things need to coincide just a little bit better. Okay, so that's team stats. We need to look at a little bit of individual play here. A lot of you are already giving. It is loud, Rodney. Are you talking about the rain out there? I am so sorry for that, by the way. I don't know if you're saying it somewhere else. Let me check my audio. It looks like we're good on that front. It's raining out there, folks, and it is tough. So we're doing the best we can with what we've got right now. Obviously, by the way, I was not in Auburn, if you can't tell that. This is happening right after the game, and probably thankfully so, I was not in Auburn tonight. Okay. Let's see here. Just looking through a couple of things. A couple of good shout-outs for people tonight. Let's start here. Hunter says it's about Jackson Arnold threw the ball deep well with great accuracy tonight. One of them should have been a touchdown, had not been dropped. Yeah, before we get into more individual things tonight, look, if it ain't one thing, it's another. I think, like I acknowledged, the kicking issues were there. The offensive line, while they didn't give up a ton of sacks based off the stats we're currently looking at right now, doesn't seem to be as much of an issue. I felt like they were causing a lot of rushing of the offense and quarterback play at times. There's a missing running back. Other people are being inserted into those plays that maybe are a little bit less experienced on blocking and things like that. Jeremiah is being asked to do a bunch tonight. We had an offensive lineman go down. I actually was trying to get a good look on the TV whether Cale Ellis was still in there tonight. I want to give the kid props for once again just manning up and getting in there. And we're not going to be able to talk about him in the stats before I get into the individual, but let me just give a huge shout out to Cale Ellis. I'm probably the tape shows that maybe he struggled a little bit or maybe even more than that after this play. But the very first play when he came in to the game, he hit an incredible block in conjunction with the guard next to him, which I forget which one it was to attribute it to burst Jeremiah Cobb for that big run. So I can't say this enough. In these moments where the team is frustrating you, where it is struggling, it is important to find some of those moments to be at least individually proud of. So Cale Ellis, we've given you a shout out before here. I want to do that again because I think you deserve it because you're being thrown to the fire and asked to do a lot when Connor Lew goes down. And I think at least in some ways you're definitely stepping up. Individually tonight, Jackson Arnold is 18 for 30, 207, 1 interception, 60 completion percentage. His passer rating is 101.3. So it wasn't a terrible night for him. For those people that are saying get rid of him, things like that, that's just emotions. You obviously aren't even looking at the full story of this. I'm not saying it was an outstanding game for him by any stretch of the imagination, but it was a good enough game to keep Auburn in this game and with a shot to win it. For those of you that have been clamoring, and me as well, for more run, you got it, right? You got it. You got more run games, or more of a run game in this one. Jeremiah Cobb gets 19 carries for 111 yards for a long of 41, 5.8 per carry. So an outstanding night for him. It did feel like at times, though, that Jeremiah Cobb was either getting hit at the line or bursting forth for a humongous run. And he had at least, 3 of those tonight. It felt like 2, definitely 3 of those, it felt like, with that 41-yard long that I think was the one we were talking about Cale Ellis was involved in. So great play for him tonight. He is definitely a shining moment in the middle of some very frustrating times tonight. So there's that. We're going to clear some more people who don't understand how to properly handle themselves on social media. Looking at more rushing stats, Malcolm Simmons 2 for 24 tonight, so he got 2 opportunities for that. Arnold did not have great rushing stats. He was at times struggling to find room to move. Can we give a shout out to Omar Mabson? The guy gets 1 attempt, 1 carry, gets 1 yard, and it's a touchdown. So, look, as we're talking about this, I'm not trying to be, a lot of you like to use the term sunshine pumper, and I wear that as a badge of honor if I get that thrown on me. But in the middle of all this, frustrations about losing, there are some shining moments in the middle of this that you can be very pleased with. Omar Mabson a kid that is a hometown hero type of guy, and his only carry on the night is a touchdown, and it really kind of got a lot of energy going at that time too, that thought Auburn was going to be able to pull this one out. Justin Jones even got in for a little bit with Damari no longer being here. Others are getting opportunities, so happy for him as well. What I found interesting tonight was this, as we get to some more individual things tonight. I'm making sure I got this. Only 4 receivers catch balls tonight. And hold on. Oh, because it was the last play with Jeremiah, right? I got you. Okay. So it's so weird seeing Jeremiah Wright with the target on the stat sheet, but he has to be listed as that. So yes, 4 different receivers: Cam Coleman, Eric Singletary, Perry Thompson, and Preston Howard. Preston Howard had a bad drop again tonight. He actually only caught 1 of his 4 that were targeted towards him. I can only remember the one bad one that he dropped after having a great game last one. Perry Thompson tonight had quite the game in terms of what we're wanting to see out of him. 4 catches for 60 yards, 2 on the sideline that were outstanding. 1 that wasn't needed to be a catch, even though it wasn't because of the penalty. Eric Singleton, he was utilized a lot, 6 catches for 32 yards. And then Cam Coleman with a 100-yard game, 6 catches for 108 yards, that long of 46. So, I know it doesn't help things, but this offense looks a little bit more, I guess you'd say, has some life to it. Has some life to it, at least a little bit. But when we look at those individual stats, maybe there is still a little bit left to be desired. All right, a couple more of these, and then we'll get to a little bit of your commentary and talk about a few of those things. Just checking through here to see if we've got anything else going on here tonight in the chat that's of worthwhile of mention. Lots and lots of long posts that are going to be difficult for me to read on the fly. Defensively tonight, shockingly, Xavier Atkins is only tied for the leading tackler tonight, but he does have the most solo tackles with 10. He and Robert Woodyard are tied at the top with 11 total tackles. Caleb Harris right behind with 9. Then you got Jamison Travis, who got injured at the end of the game, which probably was a big deal, to be honest with you. 5 is a big drop off from 9. And then you got everybody else: Champ Anthony, Keldrick Falk. We've really been lacking Kieran and Keldrick a lot in the stat sheet, I feel like, as of late. Not to say that they're not doing anything. I just felt like we'd be talking about them more. But good to continue to see Xavier, Robert Woodyard being there together, leading that defense with a lot of questions about that group coming into the game. Really strong performance. So look at this. Let's maybe talk about who had the best of these guys. You've got Robert Woodyard with 11 total tackles, 9 solo, 4 tackles for loss, 1 quarterback hurry. But then you got Xavier Atkins with 11 total, 10 solo, 2 sacks, including obviously the 2 tackles for loss and the quarterback hurry. That's an impressive stat line. Looking to see if there's anybody. You got Kayan Lee tonight with his first interception of the season. You've got Jake Crawford's first of the season, I believe, as well. There's not been a whole lot, but I don't want to misspeak and act like there wasn't another one. Once again, the defense certainly showed up, and you got to look at this final score and go, well, was there less defense played tonight? You're in a double overtime situation where you're getting a little bit ease of opportunities there. And so maybe that needs to be factored in just a little bit at that point. All right. So there's some team stats. There's some individual stats. We've walked through a bunch of those. Surprisingly, as I walked through those, there was more to be, I want to say happy, but at least pleased with certain individuals in this tonight. The team as a whole, the results as a whole, still not what we want, obviously, with the final score, 23-17, Missouri wins in overtime. Auburn loses 4th in a row, 4th in the SEC, still winless in the SEC, but all of them are ranked and all of them are highly thought of team. I know a lot of you don't want to hear that, but that's still a reality in the context of all of this. So there's something to at least think about and mull around in your head as we digest this over the next couple of hours, for those of you that are going to stay up thinking about this one, and how many of you are going to stay up thinking about this for days and weeks and years and months. All right. we're going to get to some commentary from you guys. I'm not going to have the ability to go back all the way through. So while I don't ask you to spam the same comment over and over again, I do ask that you maybe, if there was something that you wanted to address in the chat, I'm going to try to now focus a little bit of my attention on that and addressing some of the things that y'all would like to dive into a little bit more detail. Remember, folks, I get it. I'm upset just like you are. There is nothing productive about you coming on this show, calling for someone's job, calling for someone to be benched. It adds no value to this stream. It adds no value to the team. It adds no value to your life as much as you think it does. So I just want to continue to reiterate that here. This is a place not for social media, message board, keyboard warriors. If you wouldn't say it to someone's face, don't say it in this chat. So just another little forewarning there. While you think about some of those things that we want to discuss here today, let me remind you of a couple things in the chat for not just the chat, but here on the live stream for things coming up for you this week. The Auburn Experience, episode 146. My gut tells me we're going to have a lot to talk about tomorrow. So 146 is going to be a lively one. I hope you can join us at 9 Eastern, 8 Central for the live recording of our main podcast. It's a great time. Wednesday live show is planned and scheduled. Keep in mind, my schedule is still tentative right now, but we're going to have that 9 Eastern, 8 Central Auburn Family Night live call-in show for you on Wednesday night. So join us for that. And then we'll kind of go from there. I'm expecting to have a little bit of a busier week in terms of schedules and stuff. So I'm going to do my best to maintain some of that content for you all this week, but it could get a little bit crazy at times. But I have a feeling the next week, we will be back into our regular gear of things like that. So this is from Ants Den. He says, just left the game. Nonetheless, had a blast. I'm disappointed that I wasn't able to be there. Thankfully, I was able to sell the ticket because I'm gone for family reasons, not because I didn't want to be there. But sounds like once again the atmosphere, all that was top notch. Continuing to get to show that to recruits and stuff is going to be huge. So I'm glad that you at least had a great time. It was entertaining. Auburn was in the game again, just couldn't get the job done. Let's see here. People are debating their icons next to their names. You get those over time when you're a channel member here. They add up over time. WT kind of putting a really fine point on this thing. The reality is they were all really good teams, talking about the last 4 teams, and we are not. And I think it's a fair assessment. Based off results, we are not a good team right now. However, you also have to talk about the flip side of that. We have been in the game with a position to win every single one of those games, with each one of those being probably a little bit more difficulty. Well, maybe not in that order going backwards, but you get my point. Auburn's had an opportunity to win the game against these challenging opponents. So I would agree when Coach Freeze says that we're close. They obviously are, but at some point, you can't just be close. You've got to do it. So there's that part of it as well. Let's see here. David, I think this is a funny one. I'm sure after the season's over, I'm going to have PTSD from 3rd and goal from the 1-yard line. When the touchdown for Missouri was being reviewed, I think that's the situation I'm talking about here, which the first review at the goal line, we all were like, here we go. Here we go. Let's see here. Last 2 play calls were incredible. Well, I know you mean that sarcastically. It's, a lot of us like to make those statements here, but I guarantee you couldn't do better, especially in those situations with what you're given to work with. So it's always important to remember that. It's easy for you to say those things here and make those statements. But if you think you can, I'll expect your resume on the AD's desk tomorrow, and we'll be hearing from you soon. Let's see here. Stan, if you have any questions about the membership thing, Stan, you're not actually a member on here. It's a different thing, but hit me up in an email if you have questions about it, because you're not listed as one on here. I think there may be some confusion about that. I know that's a little bit of housekeeping stuff, but I see a lot of commentary on there. So I don't know what's going on that end, but you're not listed as one on there. Unbeaten Lake says we've been very close for 3 years. I don't think it's been very close for the last 3 years in terms of the first year was really about laying a groundwork somewhat, or really trying to figure out what had been left at it in the years of Harsin. Year 2, there was probably a lot more closeness. This one is just literally, it's right there and we can't get the job done. Michael from X says defense is what keeps close. O needs a lot of help. Now, let's be clear here. You can't keep in close unless you have. My goodness, I am bleeding down there. Sorry, I know that's not important for the show, but I just realized I hurt myself. The defense certainly kept it close. The offense also kept it close too. Let's keep everything in context as much as we can. I don't want it to be close anymore. Yeah, I agree. It would be nice to just close one out and go home and feel good about that. That happened earlier in the season, but not so much at this point when you're playing in the SEC every single time. Let's see here. Yeah, we're going to clear the board of people that don't know how to. When someone says that they know better and they could do better, they absolutely could not. So we just clear the board of that nonsense here. Don't need that here. Yeah, I'll take the question. Listen, Devin's heard me say this before. People have heard me say this every single place that I'm not one that engages in very much of this fire the head coach talk, things like that. It wouldn't shock me if there was a change made, but I'm not even going to entertain who it would be after that, when it would happen until it happens. There's just nothing productive of value that's added to that until something happens. It doesn't do anything for you. It doesn't do anything for the team. It doesn't do anything for the player. It doesn't do anything except just give people a reason to be mad online, and there's enough of that already. Yeah, I know, right, Micah? I apparently hurt myself over the game. I just can't for the life of me know what I hit my knee on. Those are the things that you get here on a post-game show. By the way, I didn't think this earlier. Pat Hogan, you did become a new member. You have that icon next to you. So good to know that you're here hanging out with us, and appreciate you becoming a new member tonight. Imagine how great it would be if we had dumped Bruce Pearl after the third year. A little bit. Your point is fair, WT. But I think we all recognize that basketball program, as bad a situation as the decision was to fire Malzahn, that brought Harsin, that made it worse. The state it was in, the basketball team and program was in a much worse state than this football team even is right now. And here's I think there's a lot of people talking about a specific play having frustrated with it. You can have a great play called, but if you can't block it, especially in crunch time, which has happened a lot. How many times tonight did we see the defense fold in, even if it wasn't a sack? I think Jackson at times saved a couple sacks tonight because he was able to get free for at least a yard or two. How many times did that happen tonight? On third and whatever, not even long. The offensive line was not able to protect them. Let's see here. Yeah, big shout out for Pat Hogan for joining. I don't know if he's here, but he did join as a thing later. You feel for the players most out of all of this? Of course. That's what this is all about. We don't have a team. We don't have a hope of a win if you don't have a team out there. Of course. Absolutely, of course. That's who you feel for the most out of all of this. And that's where a lot of the emotions come for this. But at the same time, you've got people that are being disparaging towards players that they have convinced themselves are the scum of the earth and act like that in the chat. And so it's just kind of have to keep all of that in perspective. I agree, Stan. It didn't have to be this way. It didn't have to be this way. But it is, because people were so convinced in 2020 we needed a change. By the way, sorry, not to dig that up, but since we're just here kind of chopping the wood on all this, I've been fighting the urge. I told Austin this week that I'm fighting the urge to go find the clip of the day I did a live stream. It was actually when we first started doing live streams on YouTube when Gus Malzahn got fired, and find the clip where I made the statement. And I wasn't this direct about it, but I said, like, I wish I'd been more direct at the time, because I was correct that Auburn would be entering its decade of irrelevancy that Tennessee was just leaving 5 years into that decade. So it is what it is. Let's see here. Is there an SEC game that we can win? I think it's a little bit hyperbolic, Brian. Certainly there are ones. And the reality is you've been in position. See, this statement, I'm not trying to pick on you, Brian. the emotions and the lack of context around this is that somehow we can't even get in a position to win the game. We have been in position to win every single one of these games. We just can't close it out. So I get what you're implying there. And certainly when you've got Vanderbilt, who looks strong, Arkansas and Kentucky look like your strongest chances at this point, even one of those being on the road. Let's see here. Yeah, if you say fire someone immediately, we fire you. So you should have no problems with that. People who have a problem with that, it's kind of hypocritical if you have a problem with us doing that to you. Hunter thinks that this defense will go down as one of the best and most forgotten defenses in recent years because of how little our offense is able to score. I think that 2019 will have something to say about that one. They did the Lord's work against Joe Burrow and that LSU offense, and yeah, weren't able to close out that one either. Let's see here. I think comments like this are childish, so I'm just going to throw it right back at you. So you shouldn't have a problem with that if you want to share that here. But Jackson is not thrown with purpose, in your opinion. I think overall, if you cast over his full performance this year, that's been true at some points, but not tonight. I think tonight he did a much better job. I'm not saying it was outstanding, but I think we found a little bit more purpose in his throws tonight. A lot of people are calling for should Deuce Knight play, things like that. Jacob has got an opinion. Putting Deuce in would ruin him. He looked rough. He looked rough against Ball State. He can't afford to ruin his confidence now. So there's a dynamic, right? Do you just go ahead and play him so they'll feel like they can stay and not transfer out? I know there's that mentality I don't really dive a lot into. I think it's a defeatist mentality. You can't just wonder and freak out about those things. But sorry, I lost a train of thought there. Yeah, I get everybody thinks that just simply firing this person, benching this person is going to solve problems. It ain't that simple. I promise you. It just ain't that simple. Yeah, there will be none of that. Christopher T. Law. I think we got a Bama fan in our and another Bama fan lurking in here, which is always interesting. We can't find them at all, but when Auburn's down, we can find them. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to do the long written out things, unfortunately, here, just because we're trying to rapid fire go through some of these. Just looking for some more commentary about the game specifically, if there's anything we haven't talked about. Unbeaten Lake says no quarterback is going to succeed under this offense. And I would take that a step further. I disagree that no quarterback is going to succeed in this offense. That's just not true. It's happened historically with Hugh Freeze. It's just not happening here. I would take what you said and add no quarterback is going to succeed with the lack of consistency with this offensive line. Once again, walking through the stats, not a lot of sacks tonight. Certainly, it's something that has been better at times. It's just not been consistent, and it's caused bad habits to be formed by multiple quarterbacks, confidence to be wrecked. Now, don't hear me not taking the responsibility on the quarterbacks too. I acknowledge that, but you have to acknowledge they literally hold the lifeblood of this offense in their hands, and they have not been able to get a job done. So we changed personnel, brought in transfers, we brought in high school people, we've changed offensive line coaches, we've changed offensive coordinators, we've changed head coaches. It's tough. It's tough, man. Brian said big time interception to end regulation. What does it take for the offense to click? I mean, they clicked a little bit better tonight, but not. But, once again, we can celebrate one thing without taking a shot at the other. Big time interception, definitely at the end of the game there. I was watching it with a family member here, and I said, I'm happy that we got the interception to keep them from kicking that field goal to win the game. But it was basically like a punt at that and forced us to kneel the ball. I agree that, frankly, that we should have just kneeled it and gone to overtime at that point. Let's see here. Yeah. And we said this earlier, and I want to continue to stress this. While I will not say Jackson Arnold played the best I've ever seen in the world. I think a lot of people are ignoring some things that he definitely lacked tonight. At times, some very key drops in moments that were just brutal. He had some lack of support on the offensive line at times, not always throughout, but there were a couple of times he held the ball, I think, a little bit too long. So all of it factored into this, but there were some things that were really working against Jackson tonight too. Let's see here. Anything else in the chat? WT wants a shout out for giving Perry Thompson the show out in this game. I feel like, though, people have been saying that forever. And, you're bound to, if you say it every week, it's bound to happen, right? But in all seriousness, WT, I'm glad that he did get a show out tonight. And this was his prime opportunity with Horatio Fields out to be able to have an opportunity to not just go out and play more, but to do more with it. And so even with that first catch that was out of bounds and got negated because of the penalty anyway, he showed his ability to make plays on the sidelines, especially tonight. Yeah, I never agree with this take about with talented, like somehow using the money against them. It's the same take as I don't care what I say about the head coach because he makes millions of dollars. That doesn't excuse poor behavior. And I'm not saying necessarily you're saying that, JB. I just don't think that you're thinking about it too small, in my opinion, with the whole money should fix everything. If that's the case, you'll have to explain to me why Jimbo Fisher is no longer at Texas A&M. Literally had every piece of money, every piece of talent you could want based off metrics and rankings and stars, and it just didn't work. And it wasn't just because of coaching. Some of it was, but it wasn't just because of coaching. Did you notice that every time Mizzou needed a first down, they threw slants? We can never defend it. It felt like they had a lot of success with that tonight, certainly. But they did a pretty good job in some other situation locking down. Like, it's not a perfect situation at all. How many yards did Cobb have? I'm sorry if we didn't talk about that. Let me go back and give you that. A couple more bits of information here, and we'll have to start winding down our time. Jeremiah Cobb, 19 carries for 111 yards. That was a while ago in our show, so there we go. We're going to go ahead and get rid of some other trash in the comments, people that don't need to be given access to social media accounts. So there we go. Corey says, take a positive from this. We actually scored in the second half. Hey, listen, whatever you want to take for yourself. That's all. I'll take it. Okay. We didn't talk about special teams tonight enough, and I should have done that a little bit in another situation. Kickers tonight, Al McPherson. We did already discuss it a little bit, but God, I feel for the kid. He's worked so hard to get back, and then he's put in tough situations. I just wonder, should we have let someone else attempt the long one tonight? I get why neither guy has shown you that they can do that reliably. I saw earlier, I think it was Rodney joking that I need to suit up again. You don't want me out there. Even in my best, you don't want me out there. I was accurate, but I could not. Alex McPherson, with his illnesses that he's dealt with that affected his strength, could do miles around me. Do I think Hugh should have called a timeout before last play? It's one of those situations, Auburn chatbot, where, of course, if he doesn't do it and the play works, then we're not questioning it. So it's just one of those things you never know, right? I don't think what we think about that play really matters, frankly. Yo Taco, fun game. Unfortunately, didn't go our way. Certainly. Oh yeah, the TikToks are gonna be fun this week. Although there was a lot of jawing about Ahmad Hardy from the Mizzou fans that I'm really interested to see what their take on that. Let's see how he did tonight. 24 carries for 58 yards, 2.4 per carry. I got a lot of that this week, and it was funny to watch the defense shut it down. So props to them again, showing up and showing out and taking care of some difficult offenses. Listen, we'll talk about future stuff down the line, but we don't engage in a lot of that. here it's just not really productive until there's a need for change or anything like that. Until there, someone's going to take that and run with it until a change actually happens. All right, final questions, comments, topics. If there's anything last minute you want to put in here, just final reminders again. Tomorrow we have our Auburn Experience live broadcast and recording. It's more than sports. It's about Auburn sports, culture, family. We'd love to have you there, 9 Eastern time, 8 Central. We'll be talking about lots of different things in the space and hope that you can join us for that. It's always a good time, and we appreciate those of you that are able to attend live, especially because we love seeing y'all there. Final notes, things like that. Hunter says Durkin is that dude. He's been a great defensive mind his entire career, and that hasn't changed. Doing some good things there. Hunter also says, I was pleased with the aggressive play calling on defense. And yeah, they were just short a few times of really making some extra big plays, just short of that. I'd rather lose with the ears pinned back than vice versa. Certainly. I think that may be a reference to a play call that was had a few years back. That certainly there was less of pinning of ears back and more of trying to keep things in front of you and weren't able to keep anything in front of you or even behind you. All right. Thank you all for hanging out here. Once again, I want to end the show this way and remind you all. I know that we're not all your cup of tea, and that's fine. There are plenty of places for you to go and express what you want to, the way you want to. Here, we hold you, especially those of you that are Auburn folks, to the Auburn creed. That means if it's not productive, if it's not constructive, that doesn't mean about being Pollyanna, doesn't mean about being a sunshine puffer. It just means about operating within context and not just being an emotional person that calls for people's jobs and things like that, just because it makes you feel better on social media. We're here to have a community and conversations that are more well-rounded and more productive overall, even when it's frustrating to do so. Now, we hope that you'll keep coming back, especially if that's something that resonates with you and spending some more time with us, because you look, there could be more losses down the line, whether there's a coach change or not. It's been a struggle all year to just complete the game. And I think right now we just need to anticipate that at this point. The offense, the team struggles to get over the hump in terms of scoring and things like that. Micah says, I enjoy being here even as an enemy, but enjoy talking ball. Thanks, Kyle Forge. Yeah, appreciate that. Thanks, Micah. We love having you here, even though you love to give us the business here and there. Close means that we put 4 quarters of good football on the field. It does mean that. But, I think I would agree with those that are saying, too, that the time for close is definitely needing to draw very much to a close here. We're going to get rid of people that, if you call someone a snowflake, I mean, you've just realized that you're a child and things like that. So it's a great way to end the show right there. But no, we'll end with this. WT, appreciate that. Thank you so much for being here and participating. So many of you that had some great things, hard, difficult things to discuss tonight. We really appreciate that. Final score for you all, 23-17. The Auburn Tigers fall 4 in a row, SEC overall, so far straight. And it's been tough. It's been tough, man. That's all I'm going to say. Thank y'all so much for spending some time with us tonight to break it down, to react, and to start to digest Auburn losing to Missouri 23-17. Till we talk to you again, thank you for spending some time with us. And we always ask you and remind you of this, the Auburn Creed. Ask you to do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with God. We ask you to do the same. Until we talk to you again.